So let's start with the founding father of Guinness. His name is Arthur Guinness. In 1725, he was born in a small Irish town called Selbridge, and he grew up in a working class family and started working basically as soon as he could walk. He and his whole family worked at a place called Carbery Malt House. A malt house back then is where beer was made. The family worked for a local wealthy landowner and bishop, and I guess they were pretty good at their job because once the landowner died, he left 100 pounds each for both Arthur and his father. Now this equaled about 4 years of wages at the time, and it was a life-changing move. I mean, again, it's the 1700s, so 100 pounds was a lot of money. In today's dollars, it would be kind of like $34,000. I mean, great, right? I mean, most people were screwed over when their boss died. They had to go find work on another property. But the Guinness family basically got a fresh start in life, and it was at the perfect time too. So during this time, Ireland was going through a serious financial crisis in the mid-1700s. The everyday person had very little money, and the money they did have was used to feed their family. This meant there were tons of expensive buildings that were just kind of dirt cheap and ready to be scooped up. Arthur Guinness and his brother used that money that they got to buy a brewery near Dublin, and they wanted to take a stab at the beer industry. Breweries in Dublin were kind of struggling because of imported beer from Britain, but Arthur believed he had a chance at standing out. He knew how to brew it himself. I mean, working in the beer industry was practically in his DNA. So he took a chance and he started that brewery, and then it paid off. I guess right away it made a lot of profit. The taste was unique and people loved that they were drinking Irish beer and not English beer. So Arthur used the profits to make a bunch of other investments in real estate, flour milling, and also insurance. And then in 1759, again, Arthur takes advantage of the fact that he's got, money in his pocket, and they're in the middle of a huge financial crisis. So he leases a property called St. James Gate, and he uses that as the main Guinness brewery. So when you think about signing a lease today, it's usually a year or two, right? But Arthur, he wanted this lease to be the deal of a lifetime. So he signs a lease for 9,000 years, and he'll only have to pay 45 pounds or $57 for a year for it. So it's safe to say that Arthur was interested in building a dynasty from the very beginning. It kind of reminds me of Scientology. You have to sign a billion-year contract. It's kind of what he did, but 9,000 years. Same thing. That's not the point. The point is his personal life. It was kind of tragic. The rest of his life was up and up, and then his personal life, woo, bad, just real bad. So Arthur, he married a rich woman, and her name was Olivia Whitmore. And Olivia was said to be the backbone of the whole Guinness enterprise. She had connections to the Irish government, which was a big plus for the family businesses. Other than that, not a lot is really known about her. But what we do know is that Arthur and Olivia had, buckle in, 21 children. That's a lot. I don't know if you know this, but that is a lot, huh? Can you imagine pushing out 21? Tragically, 11 of them died before adulthood. I mean, this was the 18th century, so it's normal, which is sad to say, but it was kind of normal for kids to be dying left and right. And then on the professional side of things, Arthur was very successful, but he was also very messy when it came to politics. Because Guinness was such a big part of Irish society, Arthur became an important figure in local politics. One of his big political moves was to petition the Irish House of Commons to lower its tax on beer. And I'm sure you can put two and two together. Of course he wants that. I mean, he's gonna get more money in his pocket. But the controversial part is his reasoning as to why. He believed that it's important for the government to lower the taxes because there was a war being waged on the Irish people through liquor. Huh? Yeah. Specifically, gin and whiskey. So the British had introduced liquor to the Irish people. People got hooked on it and they're like, this is the shit. The people who liked it the most were the lower working class in Ireland. The alcohol strength was higher and the quality was lower. At this time, there was over like 1,000 whiskey distilleries alone. So entire towns of people were becoming addicted to this stuff. It was just a totally different situation from beer. I mean, have you ever gotten drunk off of whiskey? It's a different kind of drunk than like beer drunk. Arthur argued that by lowering the tax on beer, the government wouldn't just be helping his company, it would be helping society. Fair. I mean, he was convincing because the government was like, yeah, okay. By arguing against the gin in society, it was almost like an act of resistance against the British. So this was important because at this time in the 1700s, Ireland was part of the United Kingdom. So it was under their royal government rule. But Ireland believed if they stayed under this rule, their culture and history would be erased. And there was this fear that Ireland would be turned into another version of England. Most people in Ireland wanted their own country, you know, doing their own thing and not under control of the British. But Arthur, he was on his own little path, you know, he's just building an empire. He knew he would never be able to grow his business beyond Ireland if he was anti-UK. Okay, so he didn't want to come off as anti-UK, but you know, he also wanted to keep his Irish customers, so he's trying to play both sides. So there was this thing called the Irish Rebellion in 1798, and allegedly Arthur spied on his fellow Irishmen and then passed that information to British authorities, allegedly. There were many other rumors surrounding Arthur and his allegiance to the Irish people throughout his life, but it doesn't matter because despite all that, Arthur Guinness is really seen as like an Irish icon. He did good. I mean, he was known for creating good working conditions and giving generous benefits for his workers all the way from day one. So that's great. Don't hear about that often, you know. Arthur, he died in 1803 at the age of 78, and he died leaving an incredible legacy. And I guess you could say in a way, he definitely accomplished his dream. He left his family a profitable Guinness dynasty. Now the family, all they had to do was take it to the next level and make sure that no matter what, the Guinness family or Guinness just stayed on top. And the ways that they achieved that were shocking.